And enhancing access to digital infrastructure, including broadband, mobile telecom, and internet, will not only build an inclusive and vibrant digital economy, but also present a huge investment opportunity in Africa. Earlier on, we were joined by Macharia Kinga, the CEO of Pavicon Group. Here's more.
In terms of the market size for connectivity in Africa, it's very large. Africa has two advantages. One, it has a very young population, which means the population is grown up during the revolution, technology revolution. So in terms of marketing, in terms of the need for connectivity, it's very high in Africa. Now, for us as Pavicon, we have chosen to take a step in this and towards moving on with our business and growing within Africa. Currently, we're in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia. We are also in South Sudan and Malawi. But we also have plans to venture into Ghana. Now, one of the reasons we've done this is we've seen the kind of expertise that we have in here, built in Kenya, to see whether we can leverage them across other African countries.
And when you say that the market is big, what are we talking about in terms of numbers? And also, let us compare this, looking at Kenya, Ethiopia, and also know that you're looking to venture into Ghana. What numbers have made you decide to also even venture into Ghana?
Okay, so for us, what we're looking at, since we're an infrastructure provider company,
yes,
is the level of penetration of telecommunication. So for example, if you look at Kenya in terms of mobile penetration, it's really high. We are 90% plus. But if you look at other African countries, still countries within 50% mobile penetration, 60%, 70%, which means in terms of building infrastructure, there's quite a bit of market out there for us to be able to grow. The other thing that we've looked at, one of our products is we're able to do fiber connectivity. And the fiber penetration for Africa is still really low in terms of, okay, maybe in the urban areas you might have quite a large number of fiber connectivity, but in rural areas we don't have that. So what we've looked at is said, okay, so where is the market going? So we've been able to build networks in Kenya specifically, and in Uganda, and now we're in Ethiopia. But then we're also looking at our neighboring countries, like South Sudan, for example, and Malawi. And we're saying to ourselves, the expertise that we've gained doing infrastructure and building networks for connectivity, how can we leverage this in the emerging markets and other countries in Africa?
And indeed, you're big on leveraging, like copy-pasting what you've learned in Kenya, in Ethiopia, and now Ghana, and you're also in Malawi.
Yes,
but
right.
Let us look at funding and investment opportunities here when it comes to viable funding models and investment opportunities for developing and also deploying tech solutions in Africa.
Okay, in terms of the funding for projects in Africa, there is still an appetite to fund projects in Africa. The only difficulty what most companies are facing is how to monetize this. And what we've looked at, especially from Pavicon Tech, which is part of our group, is how do we build products that we are able to either move in scale, but also still be able to make profits. Because at the end of the day, you want to be profitable for you to propel your growth plans. So what we've done is to look at specific, for example, applications. So we have, Pavicon Tech, we have several mobile applications. So for example, in Kenya, we have an application that allows you to be able to do your tax returns. We have applications that allow you to monitor your business. And now the idea is, how do you sell these applications to the market, but still at such an affordable rate that you're able to reach the numbers? Because I think that the trick here is to reach as many people as possible. That way your initial capital expenditure is spread out across a larger population.
And yes, you've mentioned the aspect of monetization. Yes. Then how best can we monetize connectivity and also come up with viable business models when it comes to creating innovative and profitable models here?
I think one of the ways is to find out what problems are we facing, especially in Africa, and how do we create solutions, tech solutions that can solve these problems. So for example, there is communication, for example. I think we still don't have a high penetration of mobile phones in Africa as the West. So already in there's already a need for communication. I mean, communication is a basic need. Then you have issues like education. How do you propel education, but still being able to provide applications that can help students in remote areas learn, but then still have those models in such a way that they are profitable for you to continue. So one of the things we've looked at is what we are doing is to build applications that are custom made for each particular market. That way you don't have a one size fits all, and then in that way you're able to customize and have a model that specifically works for the specific market that you're looking at. Now, for example, if you were going to put in an education model for people in the rural areas, you want one that is very affordable. but you also want one that works. And also you want a mobile application in rural areas that works with the available technology at the current moment. So in doing so, you're able to first provide an application or technology that is scalable and that is usable at every given space. And also you're able to now spread, for example, the cost of application, especially the CapEx. You're able to spread it across a number of people. So for example, we have an application, an enterprise application that helps small commercial businessmen track their spending. Or we have an inventory system. But instead of building a full stack inventory system that would really be expensive for an SME or a medium or a small business owner, you build a system whereby it's scalable. You can actually scale down the application that you want to use, and also you can actually build the application to work with the available technology. So for example, if the person is working from an area where they don't have 4G coverage, it makes sense to build an application that will work on 2G coverage. It makes sense to have an application that can work on SMS, for example. So our approach is that. Our approach is to look at every single market, see what potential is there, what infrastructure currently exists, and how can we build applications that can work on this infrastructure. In areas where there's no infrastructure, that's why now Pavicon as a group we come in, whereby we're able to partner with our customers, the telcos, and build the infrastructure that will support now all these tech applications that will enable the connectivity.
So this is quite a lot when you say like you're partnering with customers or you're working with customers and creating these solutions. From a skills and training perspective, how are you approaching this? Yes, when you go to Ethiopia,
yes.
How do you train them on do you train them on skills like how to go about the connections or the innovations that you have come up with? How are you approaching this from a skills training perspective?
So what we've done especially is we have a training center here in Nairobi, and any new country we go into, we have a team of our full engineers, like our best engineers, go into each country and do some training. So our idea is within less than a year to be able to transfer the skills to the local population. That way, we are not, quote unquote, exporting the Kenyan experience everywhere we go. So for example, in Ethiopia, when we have teams in Ethiopia, we undertake the training. We've partnered, and one of the things I think the misconception is that there isn't skills in Africa. There are skills in Africa, just exposure. So for example, if you go into Ethiopia, you have already telecom engineers, civil engineers. The only thing you're doing is now presenting them with the new technology that you want to put in place. So in essence, what you're doing is providing the opportunity for the teams to interact with the new technology.
Yes, and when you say new technology, what are some of these technologies that we are saying here, emerging technologies in place?
Yes, so one of the biggest one right now everyone is talking about is fixed wireless, so fiber optics. Traditionally, most of our data has been carried via microwave, but now the need for data is so high that we need to have high capacity data transmission, and fiber optics is one of the ways where we're able to do this. So in terms of exposure to fiber optic networks, some countries might not have as much exposure as others. So the idea behind it is to train on new technicians on exposure, on how to handle fiber, how to connect, not necessarily on the fundamentals, but just the technical parts, the experience part.